Welcome in to ACL Live. Bernie and Wally here today. Before we get started, Bernie, we got to shout out Mish, man. Mish filled in for me before New Year's.
Yeah,
Filled in for me last week. So thank you
absolutely.
very much, Michelle Thompson.
Michelle Thompson holding it down. I mean, she loves it. She loves the airtime. Don't let her kid you.
Yeah.
She acts like she doesn't, but she loves it.
Oh, this microphone in front of me? Okay.
Oh my gosh, it doesn't mean much to me. She loves it.
Nah, so. I appreciate her though. I like how we shout her out and then we immediately bash her. Right
caveat, just bash. Yeah, no. She definitely hooked us up.
Yeah. So most importantly, how you feeling though, man? You've been last time I saw you, you were kind of a battle.
Oddly enough, I'm starting to feel better. I feel bad. I spoke with Kat Halbert today, and she's in the middle of it. And she sent out some post on Facebook, I think today, like, "Hey, my throat hurt, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
So I texted her and I was like, "So tell me what's going on." And she started going through it, and I was like, "Well, this is the day you're in, and it's the exact same thing that I had, and it's awful." So
and then you apologize for giving it to her right away.
Well, I mean, I should have, but it's like, but it's funny. It's like, if I don't work, right? Like if I don't show up and do that stuff, then I'm that guy that doesn't show up. I mean, I should have, but it's like, but it's funny. It's like, what happened there?
I had the chat up and audio came through.
But I felt bad about it when I was talking to her because obviously she got it from me. So
yeah, well, I mean, there were thousands of people there. It could have came from anybody, so who knows? But
if the only person hacking up a lung and whose throat hurt and had a temperature was me. So that was.
If you want to own it, I was trying to let you off the hook.
I mean, I feel bad about it, but man, it was rough. And I told her, I was like, "You've got X amount of time ahead of you, so you may want to get to the old doctor's office, get some steroids and some cough medicine, see if that can help knock it out."
Yeah,
but no, I feel better. Hey, speaking of. So I've started to have this, and it's, I'm 52.
Okay.
And I've just in the last month, I had my third episode today, random vertigo.
Okay. My mom had that quite a bit.
Out of nowhere, all of a sudden you feel like you're in a blender. And it is the weirdest sensation because it's scary, right? Like literally you're sitting there and the world is going like 1,000 miles an hour around and you feel like you can't.
It's almost like you're getting pulled out of your body, and you're just kind of like watching, waiting for either to fall over or to see something crazy. Yeah.
And like I kind of freak out for a second, and I'm like, all right, just wait 10, 15, 20 seconds, it's going to go away. But the first time I got it was like, oh my God, what do I do if I, because it was, after 10 seconds doesn't seem like a long amount of time, but like. Yeah. If you've never experienced something and then you're 10 seconds in and it's still going, I'm like, oh my God, do I call 911? Like, what's happening?
But I always thought like that's how I'm going to go out. I'm just going to be too stubborn to call 911. Like if I hit my head on, I remember one time I was in the garage and like my dog got out and I went to get my dog. I went down real quick, and as I was going down, I hit my head on the garage door and like just started, gushing blood. You know what I mean? Like a lot of blood in the skull. So. I got my dog, brought her back inside, and all of a sudden I started getting like really hot. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna be the man who goes next door and cries to my neighbor about a little gash on my head. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I could not get the blood to stop though. So like I started getting a little dizzy. Yeah, and I called my mom. I was like, all right, you might want to come over here. I'll unlock the front door, but like if I'm in a puddle, this is how I go. I love you, That's too stubborn, man. I don't want to be that
guy. For some reason. I don't know why exactly. It was funny. I was talking with Julie and her daughter earlier, and I was like, I am sickly. I've always been a sickly kid, and I guess I was born a little early, and so having an issue with, I just don't have the immune system that everyone else has. When I'm in great shape and I'm eating right and all that, I'm fine, right? Like it's not a big deal. But when I'm not, which like now, if it's out there, I get it, right? Like I've had COVID twice. I had whatever I had over, I get it. It's out there.
Yeah, we gotta take care of you, man.
But it's funny because you don't want to be that person. And then you realize you are that person all the time.
Help. Help. I don't need it. But
something's not right.
Just stand there in case I need help. All right. Let me be a man, but just stand there in case I need help.
Someone be off to the side in case I fall out.
Yeah. But you watch any football, man?
I have been playing tonight. I mean, pretty good playoff games.
I'll say every time that we get an interception from Dak, we take a shot. How about that?
Oh, be the way, yeah. Be the way. By the way, shout out to Ghostfinger, aka Michael Caine. he's been a Chargers fan since I met him back in the 80s. Apparently, he grew up that one had to hurt over the weekend. That had to hurt. So shout out to Ghostfinger. That had to be painful.
Yeah, we're doing a fantasy. It's not really a fantasy. It's like a random blind draw. You get associated with a team. Everybody pays in $100. You get like one random team. It's whatever. Matt Ryan's throwing it on for us. I got the Bengals, so I was feeling kind of comfortable.
Solid, yeah.
And then I tuned in, and I didn't realize I could tune in because I guess the game was on Peacock or whatever.
Right.
So I tuned in, and I tuned in right when they blocked that rush on the 1 yard line for the fumble return for the touchdown. I was like, this game's amazing. It's the best thing ever. Yeah, Matt Ryan had, I believe it was the Chargers, and I think his girlfriend had the Jaguars, so they're sitting on the same couch watching the game. And
I bet he was talking so much smack and then just had to eat it, right? Just completely eat it for half.
Yeah, so he was probably feeling pretty good, and then he got eliminated from his own pool, and then later on, she's a Vikings fan. So he got his little last laugh on Snapchat. Sudden Snapchat.
So
disappointed. He's a Cowboys fan though.
So the quarterback for the Giants went to my rival high school.
Uh-oh.
I mean, obviously our ages are way apart, but he went to Charlotte Latin, was a 2-star, just not really a big deal. Like sat the bench at Duke for 3 years, but he was Peyton Manning's coach. Ended up coaching at Duke. What was his name? He was Peyton Manning's quarterback coach at Tennessee. Then he was Duke's. My brain doesn't work. Anyway, obviously did a very good job with him. He was also Eli Manning's coach at Ole Miss as far as a position coach. Anyway, guy knows how to coach quarterbacks. And I'm glad to see him doing well because obviously for a few years there, he's just been eating it right in New York. And it's the worst town. New York and Philadelphia are the two worst towns to be terrible.
Odell Beckham's fault with that picture on the boat. They've been terrible since that picture on the boat.
But he played his tail off. So I'm happy for Daniel Jones.
Good job. He was actually on one of our Super Bowls, wasn't he?
He was. He was our first Super Bowl. He and
dive into that a little bit too.
Yeah, we talk a little foreshadowing. Nice work, Walter.
Yeah, well, we're making wait. We'll take a commercial break, guys. We'll be right back on the other side. We'll kind of dive into the Super Bowls a little bit. See you in a few. All right, ACL Nation, welcome back. We got a little segue in there talking about Daniel Jones and the Super Bowls. Bernie, we got our first Super Bowl coming up pretty soon, I believe, right?
Yes, sir. Coming up soon. It'll be in when we're in Glendale.
Yeah, Glendale, Arizona.
For the also the finals of the shootout.
Yep, finals of the shootout.
Shootout number one, anyway. Yep.
Yeah, we got was it Cheyenne? And she's taking on I already forgot. Rosie, right? Cheyenne's taking on Rosie.
Cheyenne and Rosie.
Jimmy McGuffin and Damon Dennis going to take on Ryan Wiedenfeld and Ryan Smith, and then
hold on. By the way,
Graham.
By the way, hold on. Don't even go all the way there. Can we talk about Damon and Jimmy for a second?
Okay.
I mean, you were actually sitting down? I don't think you heard him when he came over. Maybe you did when Damon Dennis came over and we had finished that first 5 hours. Remember we were doing that day and we'd gone like 5 straight hours. We couldn't get lunch, all that kind of stuff.
Couldn't get a break. Yep, nothing.
Yeah. And so Damon Dennis comes over after we stand up and we're kind of walking around. And he's like, I told you to put that shovel away. Quit shoveling dirt on us. And I was like, I love it. I love the fact, they listen to what I'm saying, first off.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I mean, I do. I mean, it was pretty nice of the fact that he's heard me mention a few times how many times that people like myself. I never remember
what I say, so I'm worried that I say something. I mean,
think about it. Think about how many times. I mean, I know I've said it a few times about Damon, Jimmy, Frank Modlin, especially about guys where it's like, the game's passed them by, time to throw some dirt on their career, and boom, something like this happens. And it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
Sport. That's what I love about the sport. Anybody, any age, any shape, any size can do it. Yep. I'm looking forward to the shootouts and the Super Holes. The Super Holes are more exciting to me than regular cornhole. I love when a celebrity puts one bag on the board and the crowd goes crazy.
Right?
You're not getting that. They get one bag in the hole. They throw a 4. It's a 4-on-2 and the crowd's going crazy over it, as opposed to the other end where it's like a 12-on-12.
Yeah.
The only time we want the actual pros to shoot is at the end where it's just airmail time. Airmail.
Right. What I love is like when you have the moment like we had in Rock Hill in August when you had Dawn Staley, and then all of a sudden you have this, world champion as an athlete, national championship coach. I mean, she's done pretty much everything in women's basketball, right? As a champion and as a coach. And then you watch her get competitive. Right. Like, hey, it's all fun. We're all having fun. And then all of a sudden she's giving up a few points here and there. And then you can just see it change in her. And she's like, no, absolutely not. I'm not losing like this. And I think she got like a 9 or a 10 in that one round and changed the whole. I mean, I love when stuff like that happens. When you see, these celebrities and no one likes to look like an idiot. Right. I mean, I don't care. Like, even if you know that this isn't your chosen profession and you don't really, how can you be good at it? But someone that's competitive like that doesn't want to look like an idiot. And then the fact that she had that big round, like I love when stuff like that happens. To me, that's the coolest thing.
That's their walk. It's like their one hole in golf.
Right.
One round. It was amazing.
Right. But I still talk about the 76 I shot, and that was back in like 1997. I still talk about it.
I don't golf much, but I hit one par. I missed my birdie. I was so mad. I had a chance for a birdie, and I missed and got a par. I was happy. But no, the Super Bowl is going to be really fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. I don't think we have any celebrities lined up just yet. At least I haven't been.
There are some, but they don't really come forward with those until. I mean, Marlon the Winter, by the way, shout out Marlon, is the one that really handles all of that for us in the ACL. He was in the game for a while on the agent end with an agency and himself. And so he has some connections, but those are years ago. And so it's hard for Marlon to kind of dig back through there and get certain people. And then look, like we were just talking about, like some people don't like looking like a jackass, right?
Yeah.
So they're not willing to come on and look like a jackass. They'd love to do it, but then it's like, oh, well, I got to. You got to
have a certain element of, just being able to brush it off. Like Jay Cutler, I remember whenever he came on, he was making posts and tweets, talking trash, and he just had a time with it. Yeah, and the chef. What's the chef's name?
Oh God, he was so fun. Oh man, I can't remember his name. That's too bad because we had him on Borderline. He was great.
Yeah, he was wonderful for it. So. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the season, man. Like I feel like the January for me kind of gets things going. And I got a little bit of downtime now, 2 weeks off. I'll head out.
Well, you got to feel weird, huh?
It does. It feels weird. I've been in the same house for 2 weeks. I went home last week for the kiddo's birthday. And I think I'm going to go home again, watch the St. Louis Blues play. They're not doing the greatest, but my kiddo loves it, and I didn't get a chance to hang out with her too much for her birthday. And all
right,
see that. And then we hit the road, man. Back at Breakdown Monday.
Is St. Louis obviously? It's a bigger hockey town than people realize, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's a big sports town. Whenever we lost our Rams to LA, I mean, we were upset, but I mean, we weren't going to the games. We didn't have the greatest of attendance, but it's a whole political backstory, that Kroenke screwed us over out of a football team, but we got, the Blues, we got soccer coming now, and then we got
It's always been
Cardinals.
one of the 3 or 4 best baseball cities in America.
Oh yeah,
always.
Yeah, I mean we get free
history.
agents that go there to take a salary cut just for the fans. I mean it's something that we take pride on. So moving out here to Kansas City, haven't been to a Chiefs game yet, haven't been to a Royals game yet. I heard they got a soccer team too, so we'll kind of see what the sports are like out here. I haven't really got a chance to dive into it too much, except for the Chiefs game, but it was like -10. I'm not going to that, man.
And I got to tell you, I'm a little jealous because I'm from one of the worst sports cities in America. Even though we've got NBA and NFL, MLS, Charlotte is a terrible sports. It's like every other city, right? Like if you're really good, people are going to go and they're going to go crazy. But if you're 500 and kind of mediocre, no one cares. No one's going. Like it's not like in St. Louis where you're still going to go watch the Cardinals, even if they're going to win 70 games, right? People are still going. But Charlotte's just it's a transient city. No one, those of us that are like born and raised from there are kind of like this really small amount of people. So all the people that actually make up the city now are from somewhere else. So you don't have that kind of,
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Glendale, Arizona tournament, though, what do you want to see out of that? I mean, you obviously got the Super Bowl storyline going on. You got the old versus the young and the doubles pairings. Then you got Cheyenne continuing the women's domination. But last time they squared off, I mean, Rosie's on top of her game. So
Rosie, but the problem is, I mean, who's better at just a straight slide game? I mean, look, statistically, you would say, well, Rosie is, but not really. Cheyenne goes deeper in completely open tournaments, so her numbers aren't quite as good because she's playing
less.
Well, she's playing more people that are willing to be dirty on, and block her and keep her from throwing. When she throws against the other ladies and it's just a straight slide game, I mean, she's dominant, right? I mean, it's the last two. I know it's the last two.
Well, with the bracket too, she's playing less. I mean, always being at the top of the bracket, her first match isn't really going to be that tough of a matchup for her. Her second matchup, might get a little bit tougher, but then she doesn't really play anybody until her third, fourth match, and then, at that point, like the bracket's already hers, and nobody can stop her.
And even if you do beat her, then she feels like her back's against the wall, and then she plays better against the ladies. I would love to see Rosie win. I mean, in a way, and everyone knows I'm the biggest Cheyenne fan. I was one of the first ones on the Cheyenne train, right? But she has something, and I think it's more psychological over the ladies. I think they know. I don't think anyone believes they can. I think they think they can beat her. That. I think they think they can beat her, but I don't think anyone knows they can beat her.
Yeah, I heard you talking about that. I mean, the mind game is such a important part of cornhole, and that kind of brings me to my next question, Bernie. With them playing the finals at a different event, we had the Myrtle Beach draft and then the shootout there at Myrtle Beach, but then them going into this almost a month later, who's that going to benefit? I mean, Kyle Malone was just throwing lights out. It's been said over and over again that if that shootout final played there, Kyle Malone was going to beat Jamie Graham. But
I agree.
The month to think about it and prepare for it. I know Jamie says he's not fazed by it. I haven't had a chance to talk to Kyle yet, but
we actually had Kyle on last week's episode of Borderline, #Borderline. Shameless plug. But a great interview, by the way. I think it's worth going back and watching if you haven't seen it, because Kyle was amazing in that interview. But we asked him that question, and Kyle's like, I don't care, whatever. He's like, the way my game is right now, the way my belief in my game. He's like, I would have won that day, and I'm going to win in Glendale. And I was like, all right, 100%, man, right on, let's go. But does it favor someone? I think it favors Jamie, because that day Kyle Malone was the best player in that building, and I don't think anyone would have argued that point.
Yeah, I don't know what the format's going to be either. If they're going to have other events, like other times to play, like a blind draw or something. I don't know. They just go right in and play their one.
I think it's all finals there, so I don't. It's not a. Yeah.
Bring your A game, folks.
Bring your A game. Look, I think it favors Cheyenne. I think it favors Jamie. And what's the doubles again? Because I started
Damon Dennis and Jimmy McGuffin against Ryan Wiedenfeld and Brian Smith.
I don't know who that favors, actually.
I was leaning towards the older gentleman, Jimmy.
It might,
just because they've been down that rope. They're not afraid of the broadcast. This will be Ryan Wiedenfeld's first ESPN or CBS debut. I don't know which broadcast it's going to be on, but he's a long time to think about this.
Yeah, and what if it takes him 3 or 4 rounds to get used to it, well,
game's half over.
Game might be over at that point, right? So I think it does favor Damon and Jimmy just from the times they've been there. But so is Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith is a he's a workhorse in shootouts.
Yeah, and
he's one of the best round limited players in the game.
I think he's had a whole surgery since then too. So
yeah,
what's he gonna be feeling like?
All right. I mean, I would like to see Kyle win, and it's not a knock against Jamie. I love Jamie, but I think Kyle deserved it from the way he played through that weekend. But I mean, Jamie Graham's still Jamie Graham, man. I mean, like, it's not like he played bad.
No.
I mean, Jamie Graham's still Jamie Graham. One of the 3 or 4 best human beings on the planet to play the game. So I don't know. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, should be a fun one. All right, chat. Hopefully the microphone's turned. Is my mic sounding better to you guys?
Your mic sounds great to me.
Okay. Yeah, so in the chat, let me know if the mic sounds a little bit better. Also, let me know who you guys think is taking down the shootout between those 3 matchups. We'll take a commercial break. We'll get right back. Welcome back to the pro season preview here on ACL Live. Bernie and Wally here. Walter Bernie, not Wallace.
I know. I used to call you Wallace. Now it's Walter.
No,
all the time.
I'm fine with Wallace, brother. Nothing exciting in the Cowboys game yet. I mean, Dak is being Dak. Looks like 0-3 to start the game. So I just got to dig at all the Cowboy fans, man. They are the most passionate fans.
It's also the largest bandwagon group, right?
Yeah.
And
they were good a long time ago, and they had some cool starter jerseys. You remember the starter pullover jerseys?
Dude, you're so like you don't know how bad it was. Like look, I was a Steelers fan growing up, so the Steeler fans are almost as bad. The Redskins, well, what are they now? The Commanders fans were just as bad.
Guardians, I can't get those.
Yeah, those were the 3 big ones, but the Cowboy fans were always. And then when they got good again in the early '90s, it was so painful. Because they were everywhere. Literally, you'd be walking somewhere and knock over a rock, and a Cowboys fan would jump up and just start talking smack about. It was awful.
They're like always just behind a rock somewhere, waiting for them to do one good thing, and they're like, "Hey, you see that? Yeah, you see that?
Right? I mean, like, is Dak that good? Is he? I remember him playing at Mississippi State, thinking to myself, maybe he makes a roster. I mean, he's got some talents, but is he really a franchise quarterback?
I don't know. His spot over Tony Romo, and that's the last good thing I think I saw him do. But anyway, back to cornhole. We're going to talk a little bit about the Nationals coming up. We got 4 Nationals beginning in April. So April, May, June, July, and then right into Worlds. Bernie, what do you think about this? Because for me, I feel like it benefits whoever's hot at the time. I don't like right now. I would say the hottest players on the market: Fisher Hamilton, Alec Ryan, and even Kyle Malone. But are they going to be hot whenever April rolls around? And that's what I'm worried about. Is that the way the national schedule is shaping up? Is that I think it's just going to favor whoever's hot. That's why Mark Richards, in my opinion, is a front runner of players to bet on whenever it comes to these nationals because he's working on his craft. He's fine tuning these bags, and whenever we get into this, he's going to be one of the top players. I mean, he already is one of the top players to bet on, but I think he's just going to be at the top of his game at that point. Meanwhile, the other guys, they have a long time to maintain what they've been doing over the season. So
yeah, that's such a good point, Wally. Actually, because the last few years you always had that first national end of January, early February,
Yep.
and then you would have people that were playing, super well at that point, and then at the end of the year you wouldn't see them. Well, you'd see them, but they weren't playing the same way.
Right.
I like what you're saying. I like your point. I mean, you could have someone get hot for a 3-month stretch, and that's really the best 3 months they played all year, but they could win everything.
Yeah, they could win all three nationals. I mean, and there's a lot that goes on to it because whenever you team up with your doubles pro partner, those are the rankings that you need, to qualify as being a pro next season. And from what it's been told, it's going to be pretty hard to get back in. You talked about it last week. You don't want to go back through that gauntlet.
No.
You don't want to go through that qualifier.
I think it's unfortunate the way it's worked out. Look, obviously it wasn't on purpose. I don't think the ACL would want this to ever happen again. There were some issues. I mean, look, I wish we were the NFL.
Yeah. Well, the reason I bring
what happened to us wouldn't happen with other leagues, but it did, and so you have to move on and you have to make the best of it. But I like where your head's at with the question, because what happens if an Alex Rawls, a Mark Richards, a Jamie Grant, whomever, Kyle Malone, whomever, just they get hot from that, for 3-4 months, it's the best they've played in years. And let's just say that's the only 3 or 4 months they play well all year, but they could literally win everything. I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah. And the reason I bring it up, Bernie, is because you and I have been the front runners for this debate throughout the entire season, actually pretty much since I've known you. Playing with your partner at these opens, in my opinion, matters.
Absolutely.
It matters a lot. You got to find what bag works for you. You got to figure out who's arms inside, outside. You got to figure out what opponents you're going to be thrown against, or maybe there's a little mental breakdown whenever you're playing some big name, or maybe just playing a woman sometime, like my buddy Ricky. He plays a woman. He's done. You know what I mean? So I know. I don't care. Hey, inside, outside, I'll throw against her. You go down there and you're in, and for the most part, it works. But whenever you start mixing partners and you learn characteristics and abilities of someone that doesn't matter as far as your pro status goes, I just think it's a huge mistake.
I agree. Look, you're right. I've been on your side on this since it's been, I don't even know if it's an issue, but it's been an issue to me. I don't look, I understand it if it's a scheduling conflict. I get it. Right. I understand it from that point. But when you go to the opens and you see partners playing with other people, well, that's not a scheduling conflict. You're just
choosing.
I don't see how it benefits you as a player.
It only benefits you if your partner sucks, and you got to find somebody better than that partner, and you can start cashing. But
I mean, okay.
Other than that, yeah.
Well, let's talk that through. Okay, I understand that if you're a middle of the road pro, let's say, and for whatever reason, you and your partner that you've chosen to be your pro partner aren't working out that well, you can qualify through open points, yada yada yada, right? So then I get it. But if you're we're also seeing this at the top level. And you're seeing this with pros inside the top 10 and top 10 teams. I don't see how that makes sense.
Do you think that's what some people are doing? Those are just picking up a top tier pro to get higher open standings as far as doubles?
I think certain people for sure, right?
Really?
I mean, I think so. But I don't understand why the top level players would do it, because they're not necessarily going to need the open standing. So it doesn't really matter to them. But I would think, like, to me, and this is just me, talking out of the top of my head, I think, playing with that one partner could be the difference between finishing 17th and finishing 12th. Yeah. People out there might be like, well, what's the difference? To me, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. And when you start adding up at the end of the season, it's a huge difference, especially spread out over, 6 opens?
Yeah.
I don't know the
to me, that's a huge difference in, like, you know, at the end of the year, what your pro ranking is in doubles, and you're willing to sacrifice, you know, 5 to 10 spaces just because you're playing with other people in the opens. I don't mean, and who knows if that even is the case. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe we can do some detailed study over the last 2 seasons and see if it really did affect anyone and how they play. I don't know, but I just don't see how it makes sense. I don't.
Yeah. Just going back to what, you know, Kyle Malone and Jimmy Humans are doing. I like what they're doing this year. I think that they're doing a phenomenal job of, you know, working together, strategizing. Even when they lose, they come off the court. I could already see them talking it through and working towards the next match, the next open they're going to get together. And so I can understand there's some financial situations too where people might not be able to afford going to it. But I mean, that's where the sponsorships come into play. You got to strategically plan your season based off of your sponsorship money. If I were a pro, I want one sponsor to cover my food and my alcohol or whatever I may be drinking. I want one sponsor to cover my apparel and, you know, my buy-ins. I want one sponsor to cover my travel money. You get that mapped out at the beginning of the season, you put some extra planning into it. You could end up at the, you know, the stage where you're looking at the little ESPN time at the end of the season. So
right.
Things to take into consideration. Yeah.
Kyle Malone's an interesting case to me because, you know, he started out last year. They won the first national in doubles. Yep. And Kyle even talked about on Borderline that, you know, he's been known for the last 2 years as a doubles player. Right. And he kind of hates that moniker. He's like, you know, I can play singles, and it's just, you know, he kind of went in. I won't get into it. I really would like everyone to watch it because it's actually worth the view. It really is. And I'm not just saying that about myself. It's all about Kyle. I think it was an unbelievably good interview from Kyle and the points that he brought up about himself. But you know, when you get him, someone like Kyle Malone as a doubles partner, if I'm Jimmy Humans, I'm playing with Kyle every chance I get, even if it's in, you know, whatever local bar that you run into. I'm trying to play, like, you know what I mean? I want to play with him as much as possible. So I don't understand why pros have a pro partner but then only play with them in nationals. I don't get it. And I guess maybe in the chat, are they talking about it in the chat? Maybe they can walk us through it because I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand there's a lot of different circumstances that come up to it, but like you said, if they're there throwing with somebody else and there's an opportunity to, you know, have your partner, and then even have that awkward conversation. Hey, I know we're supposed to throw together, but I want to try and get some points and, you know, work together with my partner. Here's his partner that he was going to throw with, and whatever. You know, can we do something? Where all four of us are happy. I don't know.
And, you know, and look, some of these partnerships are put together by bag manufacturers. Let's not. You know, and maybe they don't want to play with that guy or girl all the time, then don't do it. Yeah. Like, to me, it's, I don't know. It is more complicated than I'm making it, but I would think, yeah, go ahead.
I just felt terrible last year. I don't remember what tournament it was whenever we walked in. I think it was Josh Keck and I. Shout out to Keck, by the way. He's in the chat, want attention. And we were walking in, and Jimmy McGuffin was walking out. We're like, what's up, Jimmy? How you doing? No, it's actually me and Anthony. We were walking in. He was like, hey, how you doing, buddy? He's like, well, not good. My partner's not showing up, so I got to go home. And I was like, that's just devastated me to see him in that situation. So I love that he's teamed up with Damon now. I love that they're throwing together, but I don't want to see any of the off-field stuff get in the way of actual players at these big tournaments that they've spent money on. I mean, there's a lot of times, you know, travel. Some people are pushing the limit with this travel, man.
Most people are. I mean, if we're being honest, most of us are.
Yeah, I fly in at like 11:59 at night, and then I got to be up at 6 hours to go to the tournament. Like, sleep is very important, especially leaving the tournament. Some people are like, well, I got to catch my flight at 6 p.m. It was the only one available. Fly out Monday. You know, why are you risking it? I don't know. Just the thought process between some of these pros. Sometimes they're getting away themselves. I don't get it.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, if we're talking about it, look, when bag manufacturers start discussing with pros, you know, we want to put you and so together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then I would have a conversation with that bag manufacturer and that other player and say, hey, man, do we really like, you know, spend, you know, it might be a painful conversation, but it would be a worthwhile conversation. I'd be like, look, I don't want to say names, but, you know, whomever bag manufacturer, I just don't think that's a good fit for me.
Yeah.
You know, as a partner, can you think about this person? And then see what they like. And I understand they're trying to get the biggest bang for their buck when they choose players to represent them and throw their bags. But is it better to choose a team that's going to do better in the long run. I don't know. I mean,
or maybe throw some extra financial discussions in there. Like, okay, I'll be willing to throw with this person, but I don't want to team up just for nationals. I would like to throw a couple opens together, maybe even some regionals, and, kind of work our way up the scale as far as the difficulty level for tournaments.
I would think. I don't know. I'm not privy to any of the contracts with bag manufacturers, but I would think at this point they have to be incentive based, right? Like, here's X amount just out of the gate to play our bag, right? But you get this if you make a broadcast, right? And every broadcast you're getting this. So if that's the case, and I think that is the case with some of the bag manufacturers, it would behoove you to play with your partner more to get that chemistry level going to make more broadcast. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just way off base.
So yeah, chat's not even talking on this. Maybe my chat's not updating at least. But I don't know. I feel like it's a big topic. You feel like it's a big topic. I guess maybe we're in the minority here that we feel like, chemistry and time matters, because there's only so many tournaments that you can throw with your partner, unless you're regionally next to your partner. Like, I believe Alan Rawls and Chris Kingsbury are, around the same area, so they get to throw quite a bit. But you take people like Fisher Hamilton and Gavin Cano, they're in different states. They don't really have the opportunities. But
once again, if it's a travel issue or something like that, I get it. But when it's not, I'm talking about it when I see it opens and you've got, pro partners playing. Like, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I know that Devin Harbaugh, whenever we had him on our show, he basically said, Vincent Frisch asked me first. That was it. So he
like, to me, the first phone call would be, who's my partner?
Yeah.
Like, hey, are you going to this open? We should, like, it shouldn't even be a conversation. The only conversation should be, hey, can you make it? You told me something about your job. Are you still going to be able to make it? And if the answer is yes, then you're playing together. Like, I don't even get, like, I don't get it at all.
I don't know if DK even went to that one, so maybe they did have that discussion. But yeah, always talk with your partner first. For me, it's not just on the boards with this guy. I'll see you whenever I see you there. I'm communicating. I'm texting leading up to the tournament. I'm saying, hey, I'm struggling with this right now. What do you recommend? How can we help each other out off the courts? That's also an interesting part of having that's the interesting part of having a partner, is that you want to be able to build that chemistry and that connection, the conversations. As I mentioned with Jimmy and Kyle, I keep going back to them. I loved what I saw after the loss. Even losses can be huge as far as getting that big win.
That's true. Bill, I mean, yes, 100%.
Yeah, Bust You Up says Bernie is spot on. So there you go. You at least got one person.
I got one fan. There you go. I got one fan cheering for me there.
How much would you need to cover all the sponsorship? I don't know, a lot, man. I don't know. That's between between you, your partner, and your sponsors.
Yeah, that's sitting down and doing the math right there. Yeah,
that's a conversation that needs to be had ahead of time. So
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll take another commercial break, Bernie. I kind of want to dive into a little bit of team stuff when we get back too. Okay.
I'm all about it.
You cool with that?
I'm all cool with it.
I'll be right back. Welcome back, ACL Nation. Here we go.
Did you see that, by the way?
Dive into the team. I did.
Commercial break. Commercial break. Your boy Dak just threw a touchdown.
I say I can't watch it, but I did get a notification that something happened. America's team, yeah. Look at it. Where are the Cowboy fans in the chat? Here they come. They're gonna be here in like 10 seconds. Telling us what's happening. They're not watching us. They're watching the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of want to dive. I want to dive into teams a little bit. I haven't had a chance to discuss teams with anybody really. We talked about the recap of the draft on our show, Bagging and Bragging. Shameless plug there. You get one.
How was it? What'd you think of it?
I think it was pretty cool, man. We had a long way to go.
Sure.
But we're also making huge strides.
I mean, it's huge strides from the previous year, I think.
Yeah, and I kind of want to go back a little bit to what we talked about with the scheduling of the Nationals and the shootouts and stuff like that. I do want to preface this by saying the ACL is doing things in the right direction. Everything that they're doing is moving things forward. So there's a lot of stuff that sometimes the pros don't like, and I see them complaining on Facebook and not exactly helping the cause, but it's all for a reason. Everything is happening for a reason. And, one big thing about the ACL is that, we're not thinking small pennies here. We're thinking growing the sport and actually turning it into a nationally covered sport where we actually make it on ESPN. They start having breakdowns, and Bernie and I start getting paid millions of dollars a year.
Right.
That's
Can you imagine, by the way, if all of a sudden we have to go to Bristol and do segments?
That's the only reason I'm here. That's the only reason I'm here, Bernie. I'm waiting for my call up, man. If the phone rings in the middle of the show.
How awesome would that be? I mean, now granted, obviously Trey, Anthony, Jeff are going to get called up first, but I just want that second call, man. Just let me in the second call.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a time where they get sick, and that's when I'll shine.
Yeah,
that's when I'll shine, Bernie. But no, going into the Super Bowl, going into the shootouts, going into the Nationals. One thing I want to talk about is the teams. I'm curious to see how these teams are going to match up. One thing I love that I didn't get a chance to talk about yet was the Michigan Marauders actually getting 4 teams, and that's all you need. You only need 4 wins, 4 actual pro doubles teams paired up with each other. And I think they're pretty strong teams in my opinion as well. Depends on how they match up against their opponents, but that could be huge as far as them getting the dub over the other 15 squads.
All right. Now, since you bring that up, I'm going to ask straight up, do you think that's more important than taking best player available? Because we went through this last year and we kind of saw it to where I think Brett Guy tried to go out and draft teammates, even though he wasn't getting proper value for some of those picks. And I said the V word again. But I think, if you looked at some of the I think there's a mixture, right? That's why I liked Carolina's draft. And people, not as many people agree with me, but I liked the draft because I thought they did a mixture. They put, they've got 2 or 3 teams that are going to be very difficult to beat. And then they've got other players that they can mix and match and, kind of steal points here and there. So I don't know, man. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, we talked to Trevor and Jamie last week about it, and they were excited about who they got, the pairings. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised. Their team looks very, very good. I'm surprised that their team looks that strong for having the last pick in the draft. I
thought that's why I thought it was an amazing draft. And look, I understand that people like Trey and some others are really all about Kentucky. I thought
on that one.
I thought the thinking process was very good. I'm just not sure we're going to get the same result. I don't know. Yeah. That's why. It's still one of my favorites. It's one of my top 3. But
I'm hopping on board with the Florida Freeze.
Are you?
I believe that Cheyenne Renner is the only reigning champion. Even though I guess Jamie Graham was on the Woodchucks as well. So I'm curious to see. Cherry's already said no. The Woodchucks are the champions, so they're going to be the defending champions throughout the whole season. So I congratulated Jimmy. I was like, hey, congratulations on your championship you never got. You're the defending champ now. But the team's format is something that I think is going to elevate this game to another level.
100%.
The shout out again to David Streaker. The jerseys, the designs, the logos, everything just top notch, man. He knocked it out of the park. And I think that's going to separate it again in a huge progression forward from last year.
Yeah.
Being able to pick your team colors and selling the hats and the jerseys, and you look up in the crowd and you actually see what's going on with.
And by the way, speaking of Michigan, I loved that logo, the Marauder. I loved it. That's one of my favorite logos.
I feel like it was a logo that you could pick on ESPN when they're playing Madden back in the day. I
loved it. I
felt like I used to pick that logo too.
I loved Carolina's. I loved California's with the bear throwing the bag.
Yeah.
I thought, Davis crushed it. I thought you and Trey crushed it.
Really?
To sit there all day and going through and producing, the whole. I mean, look, it's not as easy as everyone thinks it is to sit there and produce something like that. I mean, yes, and we've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
But, when you look at some of these major sports, I mean, you're talking hundreds of people involved making that happen. We had you and Trey producing, and then the four of us talking about it. That's it. 6 people. And then you had
in the truck.
And then you had Daniel and Curtis, kind of doing, putting the production together, a lot of the electronic, making a lot of that happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, all right, so what's that? That's 8 people.
Yeah, it was a very small staff compared to what the ESPN, MLB, or NBA draft looks like. I mean,
I was reading stuff online where people are like, "Oh my god, blah blah." It's like 8 people did this, man.
My favorite comment, and of course, if it's about me, man, it sticks. It sticks like
sure
for the entire year. I'm already working on next year's draft. That's how annoyed.
And it was more than 8, but it was, it wasn't as many people as you think.
But I mean, the biggest comment that kind of got me is it was just too long. The draft was too long. I'm like, we're not tying you down and like keeping your eyes open, watching this thing. You could stop watching it anytime.
Do what you do with the other drafts. Get up, go somewhere, come back, check it out. Oh, what round are we in? Cool. Let me see what's happened. I mean, like that's literally all you had to do. But
the response was, we'll shorten it. Only go live for like the first 6 rounds. And my response is the same. Turn it off after 6 rounds. You don't have to watch it. But the video board, people were saying, why don't you put clips of these players so we can see them in action? Okay, I'm working on that. The only problem is there's 350 of these people. And
once again, people think that what they see on television is super simple.
Yeah,
they think that is super simple to do.
I'm going through all these opens right now just to find 5 highlights for our show on Tuesdays that Misha or Wednesdays that Misha and I do.
Yeah.
And I sit in front of this computer for probably 15, 16 hours just to get 5 clips. So
people have no idea.
350 of these?
People have literally 0, but it's fine. They shouldn't unless they're involved in that industry.
Yeah.
If they knew the number of production assistants sitting in Bristol, Connecticut, going through highlight packages in games, pressing a button when they see what they've considered a highlight, and then their manager comes in, by the way, then goes through the hours of those clips, selects X amount, then that manager comes up and selects the ones that you see on SportsCenter. It's not this really simple process, and we don't have the capability to have all of that. Maybe one day we will. Hopefully we will, but we're not there yet. So cut us a little slack.
Just relax a little bit. Relax a little bit. And the other thing that the bottom people wanted a ticker of all the players that were selected.
I
agree with that. We suggested that. We just could not figure out a way to get the software and the
100%.
computers to make it happen. But again, working on it, got ideas in place for next year. Trey and I had a meeting, so I think you got a pretty good idea of what we want to do. Definitely going to get more interviews with players picked.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a final. I mean, obviously it's a year away, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to move the draft to the middle of the week too, or not middle of the week, middle of the weekend. So that way there'd be more players there if they actually get picked to come up, get their hat, shake the commissioner's hand, maybe even interview them about what's going on.
So that whole process had to be better. Like the ring ceremony was awful. Like there were a lot of things that needed to be better. I mean, we're not blind to that. It's just, cut us a touch of slack.
Yeah. So kind of brings me to my point is with all the additions and subtractions that we're going to do to make this a lot better. Players, you guys got to do the same thing. Make sure that you're managing yourselves in an appropriate way so that way you can get picked by some of these teams. Make sure that you're not doing anything off the field that's going to be like, well, I don't want this going on my squad. One thing Jamie and Trevor talked about is the vibe and the chemistry. They want to make sure that they have positive momentum going into this team season. They don't want it to be drama. They don't want to have a fifth, chef in the kitchen talking about what's going on. I mean, they want to make sure that their team is going to be a cohesive unit to try and get the win so that they can win the most money for you guys.
Yeah, look, like this has been an ongoing issue forever with speaking from an ACL perspective. People are like, well, why don't we make more money? And like, why don't we have more sponsorship dollars? And it's like, look, these things have actually come up in meetings with large level sponsors that they actually have low level people within their organizations. Like, hey, we have this big conference with this group talking about X amount of money, and it's not a small amount of money. So they're doing deep dives on social media, like who are your pros? And then they start doing deep dives on that. If you're a jackass on social media, it's going to affect things much more than yourself. And I just don't think people get that yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Big picture, you're a part of it, whether you like it or not. Big picture, you're a part of it. And
I hear it right now going, well, I needed the money. I get it. You know what we are? We're NASCAR 1965. We haven't had a transcendent athlete yet that has changed things. I mean, NASCAR, everyone was on board. Everyone was on the same team, even though they may have hated each other when they raced. Everyone was kind of on the same team, trying to take it to another level. And then Richard Petty comes along, becomes this transcendent figure that kind of crosses boundaries in sports and becomes somewhat. Look, we don't have that person yet, even though everyone thinks they are. We haven't had that person yet that's come along that ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, other people have said, oh my God, we have to show highlights of this.
Yeah.
Because that person transcends the game and they just becomes, look, we've all seen it in other sports. We've witnessed it with our own eyes. I'm like golf, for example, has been remarkably fortunate to have this happen for 100 years. They had Bobby Jones, they had Ben Hogan, they had Arnold Palmer, they had Jack Nicklaus. It went dry, Tiger Woods. They've always found a way to have this transcendent person come along. And it wasn't, and look, yes, did they start pushing that? They started pushing that person after that person had already proven that they transcended the game. We're not there yet. We're waiting. We hope to find that person. But, to be that person, you kind of have to have it. And it's so hard to define it.
And what is the it factor? I mean, I don't know if you remember, or I think you're around back whenever ESPN had the outdoor, I think it was a national with Cody and Trevor and all them, and they touched the bags out of turn.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that for me is what brought me into the cornhole for ACL. Before then, I had no idea ACL even existed. So whenever I saw that, it was kind of, drama, negative. And I'm like, hey, did you see this? And they're like, no. And I pulled it up and I showed them. And I pulled it up and I showed them. And they started getting, repeat views off of it. So sometimes the bad can lead to the good, but the same
sometimes, I mean, you don't want it a lot. You kind of like you want to have that one moment. Like if we're going to use the NASCAR analogy again, it's the Daytona 500 where Richard Petty wins after one of the Allisons and Cale Yarborough wreck. And President Reagan's plane's flying in right as the wreck happened. It's like it was one of those moments that took the sport from being just a bunch of good old boys watching at the racetrack and every now and then on TV, and it changed the face of the sport. We haven't had that moment yet.
No. And
everyone, look, if we were to ask the top 15 pros if they thought they were that person, they would probably say yes.
Really?
Oh, I mean, some would. I think some of them. I think some of them would think that they're that guy or that girl, and you're not.
Yeah.
We want you to be, but it takes. It's so rare, right? That person. I don't know who that person is. I don't know what they still might exist in that group.
And that's the thing you're talking about. You don't even know what it looks like, so you don't know what that person is.
But you know it when you see it. Everyone alive knows it when they see it.
Yep. It could be one of these Super Bowl celebrities just to hit a clutch game-winning shot that's just going to go viral and make everything spark at the right time. And they can never even be associated as far as the ACL pros go, but they could be helping the ACL pros out in a huge way. But yeah. So anyway, back to the original point.
I will go down a road with you.
No, you did good, because back to the original point, just kind of mind your P's and Q's. I think it was Trey who said it best. Just don't do anything stupid. Just don't do anything stupid. All right, we'll take one last break. We'll kind of close things up and talk about what we want to see in the 2023 season. Be right back. right, Bernie, down the home stretch, man. Final few minutes left of the show. Kind of wanted to talk about what's coming up in 2023, but real quick, got some people in the chat wanting to know what's coming up with the teams events. So I want to give you guys an idea of what to look forward to for ACL Live in the next few weeks. Next week, Bernie and I are going to do a bracket breakdown of open number 7. And then Anthony, Ione, and Trey Ryder are going to give us a week off.
Yeah.
You got your first week in a long time off, Bernie. They're going to come in. They're going to discuss everything you guys need to know about teams. So that will be, what day is that? January 30th.
Don't you think they should invite us in to that?
They should. I'll be the guy in the truck pushing the buttons, and and then you can just add in your value wherever you want. Pun intended.
Yeah.
But what are you looking forward to seeing in 2023, man? I know Mish kind of talked about it a little bit. I mean, you guys talked about trying to find a different stat besides PPR and DPR to look into.
It's not so much that. You know what I want? And we just kind of hit on it before we went to break. I'm still waiting for that moment. And I don't know, like, there's been some moments that have gone viral. I mean, you know, when Damon Dennis had the and one, and we've had a couple other moments that kind of went viral and had massive views. But I'm looking for that moment and or that person. And by the way, this isn't just a knock on the players. This is a knock on me. This is a knock on Trey. This is a knock on everyone else. I mean, to give you an analogy, no one person was more responsible for the explosion of college basketball in the 80s than Dick Vitale. Right? I mean, look, his shtick might be a little old now, but in 1983, 84, he was making it bigger. It became such a kind of must-watch thing on ESPN because of Dick Vitale. So it's up to us just as much as it is the players. But I'm still waiting for that moment, that transcendent moment to where something happens, some player comes along, something transcends the sport. And what that means is it's not just the cornhole people that find it cool.
Yeah. I feel like the Duncan Clemmer airmail at Worlds could have been it. Brett Guy's airmail for 8. I mean, could have been it. Just it missed one little element of something, and we don't even know what it is. But yeah, you're right. Just something that sparks America's interest, or even the world now. We're getting national.
International. Yeah, I mean, but you don't know what it is, and it's hard to define. And like, so for me to sit here and get on my soapbox about it's kind of ridiculous because you can't define it. You can't. You know, if it was an easy thing to write up of what it is, then everyone would do it, right?
That could be it. You know, maybe Brandon Brown comes down, donkey with one chance to win. Boom, hits the shot. Canada defeats the United States.
I mean, you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know. I should have ended the live feed right there, but I'm looking forward to national number 1. I want to see all the doubles teams, everyone make their flights this time.
Yes, sir.
Everyone show up early, everyone get a bunch of sleep, and I want everyone's A game for national number 1. That's what I want to see, Bernie.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
looking forward to it, man.
Hopefully, we don't have the same travel issues that we had last year with the airlines, but from what it's looking like, it's still a problem. So,
plan ahead, go early, go an extra day. I mean, $130 or whatever your hotel may cost you for one extra day to alleviate all the stress and just even relax and maybe go sightseeing. You know, that could be a huge factor, man.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, you know how it is, and get to the airport early. Walter, 4
hours early. By the way, I did get my TSA pre-check. So
did you? I still haven't. I need to. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm lazy.
Yeah, I got mine. So this, where are we going next week? 2 weeks. New Mexico. That'd be my first time using TSA pre-check. Although, like I said, Kansas City Airport is so small. Like, there's nothing there anyway. I'm passing 2 people. I'm like walking in line, passing 2 people. Like, you see where I'm.
Knock on wood. I fly out of Atlanta, and I've yet to have a major scare, but I get there early.
Does Atlanta have Clear?
Yes.
I use Clear. I love Clear, but TSA pre-check and Clear. There's some airports. I think Atlanta might be one of them where they have like their own TSA and Clear line.
Yeah,
I think you go through and they give you like champagne and caviar or something. I'm not sure. Haven't been there. But all right, man.
Wow.
That's it.
We made it. We made it through another one, brother.
Made it through another one. So we'll be back next week. ACL Open number 7. We'll do a bracket breakdown. We'll get a chance to go over everything. Chat, leave us some comments. Send Bernie all the private messages. Let us know who we should talk about and exactly what order they're going to finish in.
100%.
All right, guys. I'm out. Whatever. I'm it and out. Bernie, Thank you, buddy.
Take care, buddy.
All right. See ya.